join. I know Beachy said he was going to be here. I don't know who else was going to be showing up, but hopefully we have a good turnout and
Oh,
people
that's a good
enjoy
thing.
the little bit of getting to know you and know a little bit about what podcasting is all about. And I think that'll
Cool.
be a good thing.
I mean, I'm certainly no expert, but although I tell you what, I was speaking to Beachy the other day, and I mean, I spoke to, because I've asked them to be monthly meetings with the marketing company, the marketing
Right.
agency that I work with, and they were talking about a few things, and I was just like, I don't need to know this, like I don't
Yeah.
need to know it. It's just like some of the stuff, more so because I didn't understand it, but
Yeah.
they're doing really well at the moment. I mean, it's costing a fortune, but no, we work really well together.
Well, that's good. I mean, hopefully people will show up.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a big interest in being a podcaster. Hey, Kelsey, welcome in.
Hi, Kelsey.
This is my good friend Craig from the UK. He has a podcast out there. We're going to be talking about what got him into podcasting and different things that he enjoys when he's doing his podcasts, how he finds out his research and different things like that. Just to give an idea for people who may be interested in podcasting that want to join or may want to do podcasting on their own. Um, as Craig has stated, he's no expert, but we'll see. I think he knows a lot more than he thinks he knows, but it's all a matter of perspective at different points. So
Indeed. I think it's about learning. I mean, literally, it's about learn. Like anything, it's learning as you go. It's just, that's with anything, though, isn't it? That's work.
yeah,
Anything,
yep, got to research it and to figure it all out.
Yeah.
So since we got started,
She's in the house.
tell us a little bit about yourself, Craig. What got you into wanting to be a podcaster?
Oh, it's so honestly, and I love this word, convoluted, but it is such a convoluted story, and there is a story behind it. But this is the type. I'm not going to go down the whole path of telling it because it would take too long. But I was in hospital for just under 3 months. I was really, really ill. I was very poorly. And once I was treated and I was fine to be discharged, I came home and I took a little bit of time out of work. And because I was out of work I would say about 4 weeks after being discharged from hospital, I needed something to do. Now, I've never been a listener to podcasts. I've never wanted to. I never had any intention to do it. And I wanted a way to document my struggles with what had happened to me. So I started putting, when I say small content, I mean really small content. I started writing all of my feelings and then documenting it into YouTube. And then I thought from there, somebody had mentioned a podcast. And I tried to turn it into a podcast and it just didn't work. It was, I had no experience. I didn't know what I was doing. There was no listeners and I didn't have any idea about the equipment. But I tried. And then I thought, no, this isn't working. I went back to work, and because when I went back to work, I was just so busy, I just left it.
Okay.
And then after a short while, it being at work, I thought, I need to, let's try this again, but it needs to be something that I'm really passionate about. And there's a lot of people who know me personally, and I mean people, like who I see on a daily basis or a weekly basis, like physically, they know I am, and I am self-confessed boring person. I really am. I find the not so interesting. I love to know how everything works, and if I don't know it, say for example, if I'm sat watching the TV and I think, oh, that's, I'll have to Google that, Yeah, and that's where, I mean, initially that's where the podcast was born, and I started to write that down. I started to research a little bit more, and I thought I really, really want to document this as a podcast, and then that's it. You know, the more research I did, the more knowledge I got, and it's yeah, and it's doing really well, really,
So
really
you had
well.
a topic of interest, or well, disinterest, as you would want to put it, since you're saying
That's
it's
it,
not that
though.
interesting, but
I
it was
mean,
something that worked for you and you wanted to document it.
yeah, I mean, you know, and people will comment on the name. No, that's not a very interesting podcast, but the irony will pass them by. It goes completely over the head, you
Yeah,
know. And, you know, it's not a case of people looking at it and think, oh, well, that's boring. I'm not going to click on that. You know, obviously I do get, you know, and I have done for 2 year now, just under 2 year. And, you know, it works. That marketing side of things works. You
yeah.
know, it's, you know.
So, as far as equipment and stuff, what kind of equipment
Mm.
do you normally use? What, I mean, I know you probably started out with something simple and then evolved it in from there.
Oh, so the first episode I recorded was was it the history of the evolution of sock elastic. So you know your little the elastic in socks.
Yeah,
Um,
helps to hold it up to
and
the leg.
yeah, so I thought, ooh, let's and I researched it, and I literally all I used was my phone. That was it, nothing else. No microphone, no nothing, just that. And I put it all together. I put it on the what the so I came across, obviously I needed a platform, and the platform I was using, I put it on there, and it was horrendous. It was bad, but I thought it was the best thing ever. I thought this is great. I'm on Spotify, um, and as I've went on, I have come to realize that you do need to invest not massive amounts of money. So, for example, you know, I do have to script the episodes.
Right,
So once it's all written down, and I've used, you know, once I've put everything together, you know,
right.
in the correct layout, so I know what I'm doing. I use a separate tablet for that as a teleprompt. You know, I've got um, another tablet there just to keep everything square. The microphone I've got a Blue Yeti, so that was quite, it was pricey-ish, but you do not have to have lots of money and lots of advanced equipment to record these. You don't. You know, you can get it cheap enough. I think more than anything, it's the software that's involved. So once I've recorded an episode and I've run it through some software which best balances everything, then I'll run all of that through something called Adobe Podcast.
Okay,
Again, you have to pay for it, but it's the best piece of equipment software that I've found that's because I mean, you know, I work 44 hours a week in another job, and I haven't got time to be going to studios with all of this noise cancelling, you know,
right. Yeah.
equipment. But this software is amazing. I mean, you know, for somebody who I'll either record in my office at home, you know, or if I'm really busy, if I'm having a busy day, I'll do it downstairs. I'll sit on the sofa. But no matter where you are, once you've run that, um, you kind of your almost finalized version through Adobe podcast to balance all of the audio, then it sounds like you are in a recording studio. It's
So
really
you
really good.
don't really need anything expensive, just a phone and some
Not really. Like
internet
I say,
equipment or
a decent a
programs.
decent enough mic doesn't have to be expensive. Your phone and some software. That's it.
Nice.
That's it.
See
You
that,
don't have
guys?
to be
Simple and easy. You got an
absolutely.
interest, something you want to
Yeah.
do, you know, and
Absolutely. You
like
know.
Craig said, you just need a phone and some computer software.
But
Now,
even yeah.
getting it out there, what do you normally use for putting it out on the market? I mean, I already know I've been on one of your podcasts before, but
Mhm.
for the viewers that are watching, if they're wanting to get into it, what would you recommend to put the
So
podcast out there?
yeah, so there's different podcast platforms out there, and if you Google them, you know, because anybody that has a podcast, whether it be a video podcast or actually scratch that, all of these audio podcasts, you've got to have a platform which will distribute it. You've got to, you know, and there's various different ones, but and I've used two, and I know there's other ones out there, But the likes of I use RSS.com, and they're really good. Again, like anything, they're there to make money. They're not doing this for free. So there's various different. You can use them for different things. But I pay for them in order to manage, if you like, and they will distribute that out. I mean, there's various ways and means of getting it out there. But I think for me, RSS works.
Okay,
It's
awesome.
really, really good.
Without getting into detail on how much money you're making on it, because that's not really a concern for anybody out there. That is his side of the thing. As far as getting any substantial amount of cash flow coming in, wherever country that you're in, whatever money you're making, what would you recommend on it at like stuff like a bare minimum to generate any kind of like substantial revenue to where you're at least profiting and not, how should I say it, spending more than what you're making?
Yeah, so obviously, so I had a meeting with the marketing and PR company that I use for the podcast, and they're brilliant. And a lot of, I think the abbreviations ROI came up a lot, so that's your return on investment. So, I mean, the way I see it, I'm trying to put this in a good way. So, the likes of me, I don't use a massive advanced setup. The most of the money comes off, the software. As long as you try and keep that cost to a minimum, and then keep on being consistent with putting out. For me, that's it. You've got to be consistent in putting out the episodes, or content, if you like. And then of course you've got the marketing side of things. As long as you're spending as much time without crippling yourself, then you should see what we call a return on investment. You should be able to, you should say. I'm trying not to get into my financial details because that's my business.
Yeah, that's your personal business.
But yeah, I think as long as you're looking at your hardware, your software, you've got all of that, whatever you've spent, and then of course you, like I say, your software. Then yeah,
Right.
as long as you're being consistent with your content release and how you market it, if you want to market it yourself, then you should see something. I mean, it's different. So the majority of the money that I make comes off advertisements.
Right.
And there's
I
ways
mean,
and means of
that's
getting
with
off that.
anything, any kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
You got the advertising
Mm,
there, then the advertisers are paying you for hosting.
absolutely,
And
absolutely. And yeah,
I would
so you've got
assume
the
that.
advertise. Sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead, finish.
Yes, I mean, the likes of if you're utilizing advertisements, if you're utilizing sponsors, it's different. You can't put a final figure on something like that. You know,
Okay.
so mm,
And as far as earnings are concerned, without getting, like I said, into personal details, you're still collecting off the first podcast that you've ever done every time somebody reviews it, even though it's
mm,
an older podcast.
mm,
So
yeah.
there's the residual aspects of it. You can
Mm.
continue to earn revenues off of the stuff that you've already
Oh
done.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So every time, like I say, every time someone clicks, downloads, or listens to that podcast, then yeah, you're getting that. And don't get us wrong, it's not you're not going to make millions overnight. Far from it. It takes a lot of work, and it's constant marketing, constant advertisement, and depending on you know whatever you feel comfortable with, and you can go out there. There are external marketing agencies, PR. You know, there's people out there, I'm sure, that are self-employed. Doing that themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just
That
depends.
that actually was bringing me into my next question of how long did it take before you started seeing any kind of uptake? But like you said, it takes time. It's not an overnight thing.
Yeah. So again, that just depends on how you want to put your say I call them episodes because that's what I call my the content. Depending on how you want to, we'll call them episodes. And as long as you right from the hit the ground running with them, and as long as you're not just putting them out, then you should start to see um, income straight away, if that makes sense. But it's word of mouth as well. If somebody listens to a good podcast, they think, "Oh, I like this." They'll stick it
Yeah.
in the saved list,
Well,
and then
well,
word of mouth
funny
and
thing,
whatnot.
word of
But
mouth. Not everybody out there actually spreads the good news. They're all more up to spread the bad news.
oh, absolutely,
Um,
100%. I totally agree with you. You know what I mean?
but
But I suppose on the other hand, if somebody listens to, I don't know, I put a really bad episode out, or what they think is a really bad episode, and think, oh, what a load of cobblers, if you like, and then have you seen this? What a load of rubbish! And then somebody else jumps on and think, well, actually, I think I don't think that's too bad. I think that's where the saying comes that there's no such thing as bad publicity. You
True.
know?
True, because people talking about it being a negative thing, that's going to spawn somebody out there to want to see it and
Yeah.
want to give it a listen to see exactly how bad it was, whether it was bad or good. And they
Mhm.
may actually turn around and say, well, this isn't as bad as they said it was. It's actually great.
Yeah. I mean, I still get emails because it's been out there a while now, and I still do get emails in to the show because part of the show is we've got the listeners corner, and we try and read out at least two emails um, per episode, and I still get emails where I think you're either a troll or you're really trying your best to put me down for whatever reason, but you've just got
Right.
to we've got to take the bad with the good. You know.
Now, future episodes, I noticed you just recently had one that you were working on. Um, the latest one I actually listened to was pretty good, actually. It wasn't disinteresting as your title of your podcast claims. Um, and I know you take the mundane, like you did with the sock. That was actually quite informative for people.
Mhm.
Um, what kind of other futures podcasts do you see yourself doing? Any ideas in the running
Yeah,
for?
so I was just sat on the sofa before we jumped on this, and I think that I don't think I know. So the next one is going to be the different types of washing machine cycles. So
Like,
people will just throw the clothes into the washing machine and hit a few buttons, but you've got
yeah,
all these different options nowadays of different cycles. So I thought, let's have a look at that. And literally, I've only just thought of it about 3 hours ago. So I need to do a little bit of a deep dive into washing machine cycles.
well, honestly, I've never actually thought about washing machine cycles. I mean, I know you got
Mm,
different cycles for different types of fabrics and garments, but I never really looked into the science behind it. So that might actually be a very good podcast. I think a lot of people probably tune into that one.
mhm. The
Um,
reason I came up with that one is because I remember an ex girlfriend I was with, and when I was first talking to her when we first met, and I don't know how we got onto it. And I remember us having this very brief conversation about, oh, I love a good washing. Oh, well, we're talking about washing machine. And I love a good washing. I do love a good 15-minute cycle. A very quick cycle. So yeah,
it actually kind of
um,
reminds me of a movie I'd watched one time. I think John Candy was in it, and one of the ladies in there was talking about the washing machine. She's like, "I like to just set the washer on spin and just go for a ride."
is that Uncle Buck by any chance?
I can't remember what the name of the movie was. I know it was John Candy.
Hmm,
I think it might have been. It could have been Uncle Buck. It could have been, The Great Outdoors. But it was. I remember the movie being funny. But
yeah,
yeah, I've never actually thought about the science behind the different cycles. I know each one
yeah.
they
So
got
that
like the
is.
delicates and
So the title of that will be 40 degrees Celsius. So, yeah. And
yeah.
unfortunately, for my American friends out there, like of yourself and everyone else, I can't put Fahrenheit. I can't. I just can't use that. So it's 40 degrees Celsius. That's the next one, and
Yeah.
it should be published by Sunday.
All right. We look forward to seeing that one there. Um, welcome in everybody. Live with Craig. He has a podcast of his own called Now That's Not a Very Interesting Podcast. Would anybody have any questions for Craig? If you may be interested in getting into a podcast, feel free to ask questions and we'll try to answer them, or Craig will try to answer them best he can.
It's just honestly, it is so easy nowadays, and I think people realize it's easy because they're coming in left, right, and centre. They're all over YouTube. They're everywhere. Brand new podcasts.
No, BG has a question
YouTube's
for
like
you.
me,
It's like a kid in a
me.
candy store. Me, 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 me. All right, BG, what's the question, bud? And If you have any questions, guys, you can just put them out there. You don't have to ask. You just ask the question, and we'll try to do the best we can to get it answered.
Glow, kid in the kid in the back classroom.
I find the whole, learning about podcasting, because I mean, as you know, I know quite a bit about different things, but podcasting is the one thing I've never actually learned anything about. Not till I met you. All right, Beachy's question is: have you ever had writer's block? And if not, what would you do if you got writer's block?
All the time, all the time. It takes when I start researching. My apologies, sorry. When I start researching different subjects, and I think I've had this conversation with you, Meg, and I've had it with Beach. It's literally like it takes 2 to 3 days, as long as I'm off work, off my normal job, to come up with everything and have it all compiled. And I used to just try and plow through it, but now I've just come to realize that that's it. Just put everything down, put the computer down, put everything down, and then just come back to it later.
So basically, walk away. Don't get frustrated with it. Just
Yeah,
step out.
It's exactly what Glow's just said there. I step away and come back to it. You have to, because from my perspective, the more mental stress you put yourself under, the less you're gonna be able to cognitively function. But yeah, I just put it down now and go away. And this is why I think quite a lot of the times, I try and consistently put episodes out on a Sunday, and a lot of the time, I'll just have to put it out there that it's not going to be there on Sunday, and we're maybe looking at Monday or Tuesday, because I just can't complete it. So
Right. That's understandable. I mean, I get the same thing when I'm writing my lyrics for the music that I write. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of it and it'll be going good, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what's next? What's next? And just can't think of anything, so set it aside, and then later on it comes to me.
In fact, I probably have about 3 or 4 scripts of different subjects that are still sitting on the computer that I've never completed, because, like I say, writer's block, and I thought I just can't do this, and then I'll come up with another idea, and then just work on that one.
Have you ever thought of, like, with the ideas that you've got writer's block on, maybe discussing with somebody outside of your area, or like a
Oh
coworker?
yeah, but I think the problem with niche topics is, say for example, 40 degrees Celsius, this up and coming episode. I don't think there's many people out there. If I was to go to, say for example, in my normal 44-hour week, in my normal job, if I was to go to work and say, does anyone know much about washing machine cycles? And they would just look like, what? And I mean, I suppose I could contact, I could put it out there on forums, but for me, most of the fun comes from researching. And I'm the type of person, if I don't know something, I need to find out. So I'll just keep researching.
Yeah, I have that same bug. If something sparks my curiosity, I have to keep digging until I find all the information. And many times I'll go beyond finding just the basics of information because I really want to know the details. And I just keep going until I'm satisfied. Sometimes I've actually gone beyond that point. And I know your podcasts are only like 20 minutes long at the most. I think the longest one I've seen on there was 25 minutes. When you're digging into a subject matter and you find there's like this, plethora of information out there where it's just so overwhelming and so overbearing, how do you decide which one you want to go with to keep your episodes down?
Yeah, I do try and keep it, like I've got a plan in my head. So like, say for example, we'll use the soccer, we'll keep on using the evolution of soccer elastic. So I want a small section on the history of how it came to be. So what did people use in the Roman times and before that? And then kind of how it's made, what we do now, how it is at the moment, and then, maybe further down the line, what will it be? So I do have like a rigorous plan of everything, and I'll take the most interesting chunks out of, say, a paragraph, like I say, a plethora of information, and I'll just take the most interesting ones or the most funny ones. But there's nothing really funny about Scholastic.
Well, you try to balance it with a little bit of comedy, but keeping the facts straight is basically what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
So, and in turn, it is an ironic title for your podcast. Now, that's not a very interesting podcast. Um, as far as the future goes, Beachy had asked a question: where do you see the podcast going in the future?
That is something I think about every day, probably, because there's some days, and I'm not doing because I love my podcast, I do. And I sometimes think, about what if it was just a kind of stop and I would be at a complete loss. But I don't know. The honest answer to that is I really don't know. It's evolved. So I'm currently on season 2, and it's evolved a lot from season 1 to season 2. Even, there's a massive difference between them 2 seasons. And so that's
Right.
constantly in my head. What am I going to do? Not everything can last forever. It can't. And, could it lead on to I don't know, like a sister podcast? I don't know. Honestly, I can't even give an answer to that one.
Yeah.
So,
On
it's so
Glow
difficult.
asks, Craig, have you ever been to the U.S.?
No, Glow, but the plan is next year. The
Next
plan
year?
was supposed to be this year, next year. So me and my missus, me and the wife, really, really want to go. We're just trying to come up with a plan for that because obviously I work
And
full time, she works full time, and
yeah.
it would be really good actually to record a podcast in the US. That would be quite good, I think.
Oh, I think that'd
So
be interesting. I think that would catch a lot of the viewers. Um,
mhm.
you
Yeah,
probably even take some of the pictures that you've taken while you're here vacationing in the U.S. and use that as a title, or switch it up
absolutely.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's not a case of if, or it's a case of when I come to the US. So
so, which actually brings up another question for people that are out there that wanting to start a podcast. Should they make that their primary source of an income, or should they technically stay with
mm,
another job while they're doing it until it takes off to the point where it brings in enough revenues?
yeah, like that. The a few other when he asked this a couple of questions. Sorry, get stumbling with words. No, you're going to need because you're not going to make millions overnight. You're certainly not going to make millions overnight. I'm quite lucky because I have a full-time job that I love. I love it. And so at the moment I've got no hurries to leave that job. But no, you're not going to make millions overnight. You will, you're going to need another source of income. It's like anything, you know.
So yeah. So it started as a hobby and work it into a profession, basically, is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm part of it. So the platform that I use to um, manage and publish the podcast, this the same platform has a forum for members, and I'm heavily involved with that, and that comes up quite a lot of the time. That question, and yeah, yeah. Do not leave your job to think you're becoming Joe Rogan overnight because it's not going to happen.
Right. We have any more questions for Mr. Craig from our viewers? Anybody that might be interested in podcasting, um, curious about any of the aspects of it? Uh, anybody at all? Feel free to chime in, ask your questions. We'll do the best we can to answer them, or Craig will anyway. I know. I was on a couple of episodes of the podcast that you had done, and it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of enjoyment. Um, actually, brings me to a one good question. When you're doing your recordings and stuff, how often do you come into problems? And is it usually like, software glitch? Is it like microphone malfunction?
So the biggest problem I have whilst producing the episode, so essentially recording, is me. That's the biggest problem. So when I first started, before I even released the pilot episode, the SOC episode, I thought I don't want a script. I don't need a script. I want this to be as natural as I can. And did it work? 100% not. It did not. I could not do this unscripted. Just couldn't do it. Didn't work. But I had this battle in my head, scripted or unscripted. But yeah, so the biggest problem I come across is I've got the script and I'm reading through. I'll maybe get to the halfway through the first paragraph, and I'll stumble over my words, and I think, oh, hit stop, start again. That probably that happens quite a lot once I'm recording. My words, I've wrote them down. It should be easy, but it's really not. And you want the script to be as smooth as possible.
Right.
There are always going to be software glitches. Always, your internet might go down. If you're not thinking ahead, your tech might die if you haven't charged anything up. But yeah, the biggest problem when I'm producing an episode or recording an episode is me. I probably do so many re-recordings, and you'll see it in television as well, in film. Take 2, take 3, take 4 happens all the time.
Yeah. And Anointed Glow asks, is there different ways to make money with podcasting?
Yeah, I suppose like the content creators on YouTube, on Twitch. My apologies, sorry about that. Just gonna knock that off there. Yes, so like I say, YouTube, content creators, all of that sort of stuff. You can look at merch. You can, there's a podcast essentially, depending on what the podcast is. It's similar to these people that put out YouTube content. It's how you market it, and there is different ways. But for me, no, that's not a very interesting podcast. I want to keep it as basic as I can because that's what it is. It's a very basic podcast made for Sunday mornings, sat in front of the, I don't know, a window, watching the rain trickle down with a cup of tea. But
Nice.
yeah,
Very nice.
there's so many different ways.
Yeah, and Beachy just brought up an interesting one, the F word. I know you try to refrain from using that in any of your podcasts because you want to keep it family friendly.
Yeah.
What would you recommend as far as languages spoken,
It
swear
depends
words?
on the podcast. It completely depends on the content. So if there's if not probably hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and they've all got different material. I think what Beachy's referring to is I did an episode called The Ham and Pickle Paradox, and that was about it's difficult, not hatred for social media, but I don't do social media for various
Deep
different
dislike.
reasons.
A deep dislike for social media.
I really do. I don't have any social media. I don't even have WhatsApp. And I was recording this episode called The Ham and Pickle Paradox. And the more I got through the script that I'd written myself, I was getting so wound up about it. And the F word slipped out. And I thought, what I tend to do is record the script in sections, so if something does happen, I can all I want to do is re-record that section. But I hadn't. I just hammered the whole script, and I thought, oh my God, like, I couldn't believe it. Like, and so I thought, no, but this is me. This is how I feel about social media. So I kept it in, and I relabeled the podcast with an explicit warning. So that is the only episode. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you go through the episode listing, you'll see The Ham and Pickle Paradox. It's got a little explicit. But I don't usually swear. I don't curse. There's nothing profane about any of the episodes, but it was that one episode because I was talking about social media that I said the F word.
Getting back to that word in that one episode, when you did release that one episode, because I know you review your analytics and the different things through your hosting channel. Did you notice if there was any drop in the viewers on that episode, or did it actually spike the viewers in that episode?
No, nothing. It remains the same. So my podcast really from day one of starting the podcast, it's always remained pretty stable, and you will see dips here and there. It's completely normal, and it might put some people off, but it's just part and parcel of it. But no, not really. I didn't get any emails about it, which I thought I might have done. But to this day, I've not received any feedback regarding that episode. So still a good
So
episode. Please feel free to listen to it.
still getting the same viewer base off
Yeah,
of the episode, even though you dropped the F word in there.
yeah,
That's
please
actually
do.
not bad, man.
No.
So uh, basically, as far as recommendations for anybody that may want to become a podcaster, um, either subject matter wise or other, what would you recommend as far as doing a podcast? Would you say be yourself or try to change
That's what I was just
different
about to
things?
say. Is you do you. That is it. I know. It's this, and I'll still go on learning. It's that's it, because that's what we all do. We're constantly learning. But there's different type. There's drama podcasts out there. I speak regularly to a guy who has one of the podcasters from rss.com, who has it's like a fantasy role play Dungeons and Dragony type podcasting. You just do but everybody I know that's personally met me know that I'm self-professed and I just boring. But I like being boring. I'm pessimistic. I like being pessimistic because that's me, and I've always been the same. I don't wear, when I go out, I don't wear jogging bottoms or sweatpants. Is that what you call them? Sweatpants. I'm
Yeah,
just very beige. I'm very beige, but I like my
very
beige.
beige.
So,
Well, beige for some people is a very interesting color, so
mhm.
that's where a lot of the irony comes in.
Absolutely.
Good morning, Guns and
Absolutely.
Gears. Good morning, everybody that's joining our chat. Live with Craig from Now That's Not a Very Interesting Podcast, discussing his interest in podcast, how it came about. If anybody has any questions, feel free to chime in with a question, and we'll try to get to it as best as we can. Um, we're having a good morning so far, and we hope everybody out there is also having a good morning. Um, I know this might be touchy. I don't know if I really want to get into it. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. But as far as advertising your podcast, what would you recommend for
So I
somebody
initially,
that's starting?
yeah. So I initially started myself, and what I did notice was, without even advertising it, it was gaining traction, and that's because you know, there's the different podcasting platforms. The likes of, should I say, publicists? I don't know what the correct term is, but whatever you use to record your podcast, the different platforms will do different things for you. So the one I use, rss.com, they've been purely the best, and they put mine out. It gets sent out to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and there's so many more that I didn't even know was out there. So they do that automatically, and even that, just without you doing anything, will get you listeners here and there. Here and there. I wasn't planning on having a YouTube channel, but as times went on, it's kind of happened. So that helps. But I also have it's not my own. I have a I'll just say the name. I don't think they'll be bothered. Jam Marketing, who are a professional public relations and marketing agency, who helped me with that side of things. Um, Only because I am so busy. That's like literally, I am just I just couldn't do it otherwise.
Right.
But just FYI for everybody, all of that content is mine. They
Very good.
just get it
Very
out
good.
there. They just get it out there.
Yeah.
So
So they basically they just they find the niches in the market and the
yeah.
areas where that podcast would be more proficient and more, um,
Hmm.
I guess, more apt to be listened to by people in general
Hmm.
regions.
Yeah.
Which brings me actually to another question. With the management of your podcast on those different things, say for instance, they broadcast your podcast in France and they don't speak, English. Do they automatically translate that over for you, or
Yeah.
is that something
Yeah.
else?
Like I say, different platforms have different, kind of like different features. That's what I'm different features, and yeah. all of my podcasts even, put my teeth in, are automatically translated. So if someone downloads it from France, it'll be translated. If someone downloads it from Spain, it'll be translated. So, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. The one other thing I'm wondering is when they do the translation, do they actually keep your voice and just change the language, or
I don't
could it
know.
end up becoming like they have somebody that's like maybe a female transcriber that's reading the podcast for you, and they're like, "Well, this Craig Trapman, he sounds a little bit feminine," or you
Yeah, to
know,
be honest, I don't know. That's honestly the only the answer to that is I don't know. I've never really. I wouldn't know how to find out. I just know that the settings switched on. So.
okay. 'Cause I do know like when you're watching like a game on TV or something, they used to have back in the old days they had that woman that's sitting there and she's doing the
The sign
sign
language.
language for the deaf
Yeah.
people,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's just an interesting thing. I mean, yeah,
Mm,
and BT mentioned captions. I'm sure they have a lot of captions on that. I think that's something they
yeah.
may do on their own.
Hmm. Yeah.
I did turn on captions on one of the podcasts, and some of the wording in there was not quite what you had said. It was just like
Mm,
the captioning didn't catch the word the right way, and it said it was something else, and it's like, well, that don't make sense.
yeah. So I'm from the northeast of England, and the region I'm from. If I was to speak my normal dialect, even now, you guys would not have any clue because it's not just a case of sounding different. We replace words with other words. And, so if I said, ganning, that means I'm going to ganning, So it's just there I'm from. So when I'm recording, I have to soften my accent as much as I can. When I'm speaking to you guys, I have to soften. I constantly do it
Yeah,
all the time
right.
because if I was sat here with somebody else in my next door neighbor and we had a conversation, you guys would just be like, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
so
interesting you
maybe
brought up that word gunning, because we used to use that when I was up and around. We'd say, "I'm gunning for you." It means you're coming for
no,
them.
not gunning. Sorry, not gunning, ganning. So not a U in A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so ganning. But yeah, so maybe the the captions are just struggling to pick up my deep northeast accent. Mm.
Awesome. So, as far as everybody else is out there, anybody else have any more questions for Mr. Craig here, or is everybody pretty well satisfied with what he had to say about his podcasting? We're open to any questions anybody may have. I know our viewer count keeps going up and down. Uh,
Mm.
it's actually been quite an interesting interview so far.
It has, and I appreciate it. It's like I say, for me, would I do it if I still wasn't making money from it? Yes, 100% because I enjoy it. And for me, the writing, the research, the production, the recording, the releases, it's for me. I enjoy that, so, you know,
um, should I go ahead and play that song that I had created for you? Beachy had
absolutely.
asked a little while ago about a song. All right, guys. Hopefully this doesn't play too loud and doesn't drown everybody out. But here's the song that I had done for Craig, just because he's a friend.
I appreciate it. I really, really do.
How things work, designs and flaws. How things work, designs and flaws. You wake up and you get dressed, grab a cup of tea, a biscuit and a vest. Well, you ain't ready yet for the working day. He's gonna see you right. Listen to him on the train. Not another Monday. It's just Monday. Not a Monday.
Hello. We're still here. We're still
Just
here.
Monday. If you're searching for content that's as dull as paint, Craig has a podcast, and this is the name. It's called Now That's Not a Very Interesting Podcast.
I
It's
will
Monday and
get
it's
around
late.
to putting this on the podcast at some point. No.
That's entirely up to you, bud. I did it
Oh
because
no,
you're a
but
good friend.
in fact, once I had started
Yeah, I just
Filing the next episode together. It'll go in there. Did you send it to me? I can't remember.
yeah, I think I did send it to you.
I'll have a look
on
at
the
the emails.
Discord.
I'll have a look at the emails.
I'll have to get your email. I can send you an MP3 an email.
Yeah, I'll have a look. It's like I can only access the emails for the podcast themselves off the phone, so I'll have a look. Get it downloaded.
I'll go ahead and end it because it's about 2.5 minutes long. I don't know. I know some folks out there probably wouldn't have an interest in it, but it fits them. It's it
Well,
fits his
we don't
show. It
do it.
fits him.
We don't do exciting on the podcast, so yeah.
Yeah, I
But
remember the first podcast I did with you on the microwave oven. You're like, try to keep it as boring as possible,
yeah,
and
I mean,
I had to put myself in that Ben Stein monotone
mhm, yeah.
best way I could.
I think it's mentioned so many times as well. I've mentioned it so many times that we keep things very beige. Yeah, that was a word I used quite a lot. We keep things very beige, and you know, but I have returning listeners. I do. I have one in particular who is constantly in communication, and I'm just like, this is too exciting for me. I can't do this. It's
Yeah, yeah. When you're trying to keep it, like the song said, keep it as dull as watching paint dry.
that's a topic that I've thought about constantly about how long does it take for paint to dry. But I don't know. I don't know having that on there. I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
know. It's not that a case
I've
of it's
actually
too.
noticed on different things. It's all dependent on the makeup of the paint. I mean, if it's a water based, it takes longer than it does a chemically based paint.
Yeah.
And like with my the electric guitar that I made, I used the 2K
hmm
lacquer paint on that,
hmm
and it has literally an 8 hour cure or use time, but
Yeah.
it's like dry within 10 minutes of applying,
hmm
but it's tack dry,
hmm
and
Yeah.
it's usually just the surface, but underneath that it's still wet and soft.
hmm
So there's a lot of variables that go into effect on that, and that actually might be an interesting
Yeah,
podcast.
I mean, one thing I do try and do is I do try and not have. So, say for example, I don't want to have. I did an episode called "How Long Does It Take for Grass to Grow?" Right, and that was quite interesting to research because it isn't just a case of environmental factors like water and heat and the sun and photosynthesis and all this. There was actually quite a few different reasons, but I don't want to have. How long does it take for grass to grow? How long does it take for paint to dry? How long? How long? How long? I've always kind of steered away from that. So I try and have, because the titles make a massive difference as well when it comes to getting people in. You know,
Yeah,
I know, well, it is a very interesting podcast, but, because it's not a very interesting podcast, those titles still need to draw people in. And yeah, and yeah.
yeah, oh, that'd be actually interesting. I mean, I'm no expert at, like I said, I'm no expert on podcasting or anything like that, but maybe a title could be like the mundane makeup of paint.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's coming up with those titles. And when I thought about the washing machine cycles earlier on, I was sat because I sit on my days off from work and I sit watching the TV, and the podcast is just at the forefront of my mind all the time. And I thought, I was thinking, what can I do to make, I need a washing machine title. I need an episode title. And then I thought, my brain was going and going and going, similar to washing machine, going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, I need something direct, just something direct, something simple, and the
Well, I
most
mean, washing
commonly.
machines, you've got your top loaders, you got your front loaders.
Mhm.
Um, if you don't mind me suggesting a title, maybe do like a shaken not stirred,
Yeah.
the cycles of a washing machine.
hmm See, that's one thing because I did have a quick look, and I just quickly, see if there was any material out there for washing machine cycles, and the top loader in the bottom loader had came into play, I thought, oh, that's an American thing, because over here in the UK, we only have front loading washing machines. That's all we have. We don't have anything. And if we do, I'd be very if I Google it and I do find out we have, I'd be very surprised. But yes, we
Yeah.
only have the small little front loaders. So
I know. Years ago, we used to have top loaders, and top loaders were the most common one because you just
mhm,
throw everything inside of it, and
mhm,
it had that little spindle in there that just kind of just shakes everything and it cycles everything around in
mhm,
there.
yeah,
And if you went to a laundromat, they were all front loaders,
yeah,
the coin op thing.
mhm,
And I'm even seeing most of them are starting to fade out, and they're not as abundant as they used to be in the old days.
mhm,
So I'm guessing they're going kind of the way of the rotary phone,
yeah.
so to speak.
Mhm. Thank you very
So
much, Beachy. I've just noticed his comment there at the bottom. I think you're doing great, Craig. I appreciate it, Beach. I do. I appreciate it. Mm,
yeah, I mean it is despite its title, it is a very interesting podcast, and
thank you.
I try to catch every episode that comes out. There's a lot of information that you do provide out there on it, and I'm hoping it really goes well, and I'm hoping it takes off, and looking forward to seeing you possibly becoming the next Joe Rogan, if
Oh,
not that
absolutely
high,
not.
or at least number
No,
two in the
definitely not.
or at least top 10 in there.
No. Could you imagine me sat with, I don't know, trying to think of a celebrity that he has on his shows, talking about washing machine cycles? No, no, no. I prefer my minimalist tech, my minimalist content, and because that's what it's all about. And it's slowly become my baby. It has, and I'm very protective over it. And it will. And actually, I had a meeting with the marketing agency um, last Friday, and I said that to them as well. I made that point of saying this is not going to change. The layout will slightly change, because I don't know when it's going to end, but I don't want every single season being the same. I just want it to, I
Right.
want a little bit of, but yeah, it's
Mundane changes.
yeah. There's just it will never be a video podcast. It will never ever be, what you see on YouTube at the moment with all these different up and coming podcast creators. Nothing like that. No, no.
Right.
It's called Now That's Not a Very Interesting Podcast for a reason.
Awesome. Yeah. It works for you. I mean, it's your baby. It's doing what you wanted it to do, and it's growing the way you want it to grow.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But like I said earlier, if it stays stable, then that's fine. If it doesn't, if it stopped bringing in if I wasn't making, I don't want to go too deep into it because the financial aspect is personal. But it does well enough for me to get guests in, and I'm able to pay those guests. If that wasn't the case, then I would still do it. I would still do the podcast because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I guess that's basically what sums it up. If you enjoy it, go for it. You don't need much to
that's it.
start.
You do you. That's all. That's the only way I can, advise people and never quit. Like I say, my first few episodes, I had a professional. It's one of the guys that works for RSS.com, and he sent me an email one day saying, I was I was sat on the plane. I don't know where it was going. I was sat on the plane and I listened to one of the episodes, and then I was telling this to Beachy actually. I was on the phone to Beachy a while ago, and he hammered me. He gave me the most devastating criticism I've ever received. It was awful. Yes, it wasn't great. I was using my phone, no microphone. I hadn't invested any money into anything, and it was just it was awful. But the criticism that he gave me hit me hard. It got me right there, and I was just like, I can't do this. I haven't got the equipment. I haven't got this. I haven't got that, and it's just and I almost quit,
Right.
but there was something driving, just something spurred me on, and I don't know what it was, but something spurred me on to keep going. And it's time. That's all it was. It's time made it better. Research, look at different pieces of equipment, buy the best if you've got that type of money. But if not, you don't need the best, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was
So
it. That was a difficult time in the because I think we're up to season 2, episode 11, and season 1, episode 1. Oh dear God, when I think back. But like I say, like anything, it's a learning curve. It's a learning experience. You know.
yeah, and you didn't let the negative comments from the guy get you down. It drove you to do a little bit better. Or,
I almost did. I almost did. I was on the verge. I just thought, oh, what, you know. I wish I still had the copy of that very first episode, because I don't. Because once I got all of the equipment in place, I re-recorded everything.
right.
Everything was re-recorded. But yeah,
So it basically he was just knocking you down because of the equipment that you were using to start with.
I think, yeah, he gave us some quite good advice, and he says you need to kind of, because with an audio podcast, you know, the thing you need is good audio. If you don't have good
Yeah.
audio, then
Yeah,
what,
you don't want it to
you
sound
know,
like you're going
Mhm.
because nobody's going to
Exactly.
listen to it.
And he gave us some other bits of advice, which obviously I took on board. Some of it I took on board, but yeah, I'm quite lucky that I was able to kind of push that deep down, and also pick out the bits of positivity that he'd kind of popped in there, because it wasn't all negative. Most of it was, but yeah. So
Yeah, you can't. Which brings me to what I tell people all the time: don't let the negativity get you down. You can take and you can turn it around into something positive, which is exactly what Craig did. He took the negative comments the guy was telling him, and he evaluated
mhm.
it instead of giving up, which he said he was thought about. He decided to flip it into a positive, and
I
now he's
remember
out
as
there today.
well. Yeah, I remember as well. And this is honestly, and I'm just being open and honest. And one of the things really early on, when I was researching how to make um I keep looking this way, it's because I'm waiting for the mother-in-law to come. And I remember when I was looking at how to improve your audio, and you need to kind of block out everything, block out all of the sound around it. And I'm not joking. I used to have a blanket over my head and over the microphone that I had to
Okay.
block everything out, and that's how I was recording. And so just save up a little bit of money. Don't
Yeah.
buy, don't spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds on microphones. Just
Yeah. Oh,
you
and I
know,
did notice you did show me one time your studio. You had that soundproofing foam on your walls. Is that something that's really necessary, or is that something that's optional?
no, no, that's optional. To be honest with you, I don't think it makes a massive difference. To be honest with you, you can get it cheap enough. And I think from a psychological perspective, when it comes to marketing and PR, I think if somebody, say I'm scrolling through YouTube and I come across a video podcasting, you see this, I think a lot of people think, oh, this is professional. This is a professional podcast. They must have lots of money, which means this must be a really, 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 really good podcast. You can buy that foam off Amazon. You can make it. It's just foam. It's all it is. I'm sure if you got some, we call it polystyrene, the white material that crumbles,
Yeah.
that you pack
You
boxes
pop
with
it and
and
you get these
whatnot.
little like beads that you just no matter how you wipe them, they just
Yeah.
stick to you.
Yeah, you could put that on the wall and it would have exactly the same effect. But really, I mean, like I say, I use a Blue Yeti microphone. That was £120, I think, £120. So I don't know what's that,
Yeah.
70, $80.
I
Uh,
honestly don't know the
which
conversion
I
rates.
don't
I'd have to
know.
plug it into Google to find that out. But
You know, I
um,
have a pop, what do you call it? A pop cover, just to kind of minimize the pops which
oh
you
yeah,
usually get with
yeah.
recording.
It's just basically two pieces of fabric. I actually have one here on this,
Yeah, yeah, it's
but
exactly the same.
it's
You
just two
know,
pieces of cloth that breeze through it. It just keeps spit off the mic.
yeah, and and so I mean, I think overall, I've invested more so on the software. I'm probably talking about maybe it's £500 in the equipment that I've got now. Like I say, which includes the software, the tablets, that but probably a bit less. I'm not sure. But you don't need lots of money, and that will come with time.
Yeah.
You
So
know, the
basically,
more you
just
put your
good,
podcast out
good
there,
audio recording equipment is all you need. Then something that's going
that's
to
it.
get clarity.
You know, and depending on what you want out of the podcast, then as long as you put your mind with, the money will come. But I would advise do not start a podcast just because you want money, because your head's not going to be in the right place for it. You
Yeah.
know, your head's
And
not going to be there. It needs to be something you want to do, and something which which is you essentially.
yeah. So basically, if you're not a financial advisor, even though the financial podcasts are making good money, it's
Mhm.
not something you really should get into just because it's making money, because it's not something that you're going to find feeling in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Mm.
Awesome. So we're about an hour in. If anybody has any questions, comments they would like for Craig to share with Craig, please do so. Please ask. He's more than happy to answer any questions anybody has,
Anything you like.
as well
Oh,
as
look
money
at
them.
Glow there, bless her. She's pumping that advertisement out, bless her. Thank you very much, Glow.
Yeah, Glow's a sweetheart, and one of these days she's going to be on a live. Oh, go ahead and ask, bud. Peachy's got one last question. I really think this interview turned out to be very informative, by the way. I think that'll give some people out there that are thinking about it. Would you ever have a female on your podcast?
Of course, I would have a female on my podcast. Of course. I'm not a sexist misogynist. Of course I would. Of course I would. I think
I think,
most of the time the problem with having it's not a problem having guests on at all. I've done it successfully twice with Mega, and we will get round Beachy to getting that episode sorted as well. The problem is, well, one of the main problems is the time difference. The other problem being I work 44 hours a week. You know, um, so trying to find that time, it's difficult sometimes. I can't, depending on the material with the guest, I can't always promise just to do it in one take. It's just so many different factors.
yeah,
But it's doable.
yeah, I understand that. I mean, they've got to fit your podcast theme for one. If you're,
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I don't want somebody who is, an expert in rave music. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
what? But it just, yeah, I wouldn't just ask anyone, and not because I'm being pretentious or being snobbish, but it's got to fit the theme of the podcast. You wouldn't look for Joe. Well, I keep using that name. Trying to think of a famous podcaster. Yeah. It's just got to fit, doesn't it? It's just got to fit.
yeah. That's
Um,
I guess that's the best way to put it. Is you know, and I guess in a way to summarize that, it'd be like bringing somebody that's doing disco dancing on a talk show.
yeah, yeah,
You,
exactly. You know what I
they're
mean?
dancing, you're talking. It's not a match. It doesn't fit.
Mm, yeah, I would, to have somebody on and the what because like I say, I get good traction. I'm not going to lie, the podcast gets good traction, and
Yeah,
so it does get out there. If it didn't get out there, I wouldn't be getting emails, you know, um, every other day or every week, Um, but I wouldn't want that person to feel like they've got to force themselves to. I mean, yourself, Maker, you fit perfectly because to have you on those episodes where it's about how something works. So the microwave episode was perfect, you know, um, and yeah, it's got
yeah.
to work
I
like that.
actually
And
enjoyed that
it just,
stream.
even if I was to try and do it the other way, it just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't
Yeah.
work.
So basically, it's got
So
to flow. It's got to
yeah,
have that
exactly.
natural flow.
Yeah, you know.
Awesome.
So, but if anybody does have any interests and that they have, which they think, oh, boring interest, or feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
I mean,
100%.
could be anything. I mean, why does the wallpaper stick to the wall so good and others don't?
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to be totally disinteresting. You know what I mean? It could be, I think the most boring thing I've ever thought of was I was walking down the street and there was a small metal gate, and I walked past, and this metal gate, this iron wrought gate, had seen better days. It was it was rusting. There was it must have originally been painted black, and on top of that with some green, and the paint was bubbled up, and it was flaking off, and it was breaking. And as I walked past, it came to us in a second. I thought, I wonder how long it's taken for that gate to become like that. And that's how my
Yeah.
mind works. And that's, so if your mind works like that, then, shoot us
Yeah.
an email or contact us. I'm happy to sit with you and discuss the joys of how long it takes a wrought iron gate to crack,
Well, it kind of brings me to the thought of somebody that had been mentioned throughout history. Well, I can't say throughout history. A gentleman by the name of Carl Sagan, who questioned
Yes.
everything.
Yes, I've heard of
He,
Charles
he had a
Sagan.
quest and a thirst for knowledge of whatever was around him. He questioned everything.
Absolutely. But even as a child, I would sit at home and I'd be watching the TV. And there used to be a TV show. It's a UK TV show, and it was called I think it was called How Does This Work? And it was very, very much like the podcast. It was very beige, if you like. And
Yeah.
it was basically, it would show you how a car tire was made. It would show you how, I don't know, a push pop was made. You know those sweets, the candies, the push pops.
Yep.
And it would show you, it would take you through the step by step process in the factory whilst it was being made. And so if your mind works like that as well, like I say, you can shoot me an email.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know my
It,
mind works that way. That's how I learned a lot of the different things that I've learned. I've questioned a lot of things,
mhm, yeah.
and I'm still no level like Carl Sagan was. But when I see
Mm,
something that sparks interest, I get a curiosity. I mean, when I was a kid, I'd take apart vacuum cleaners and put them back together just to see how they worked.
yeah.
It wasn't always the smartest thing to do, but
There was an episode of Young Sheldon, wasn't there? I don't know if you've ever watched Young Sheldon, the prequel to the Big Bang Theory, where he takes apart the refrigerator, I think it is, and he takes it apart, but he can't put it back together, so he ends up having to get a paper job. He ends up having to be a paper boy to pay his father off. Um,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah, I was always fortunate whenever I took something apart, I was always managed to get it back together because I wouldn't take it all the way apart.
yeah,
And I had the mind of, having a little map out of every little component where it went in and the steps that I took it out, it would go further away from the object. And in doing so, I never actually had any spare parts except for one time I was working with my mom on a truck that I had purchased. The first pickup truck I ever bought had blown heads on it,
okay,
or the gaskets were blown. So my mom
mhm,
and I actually went out and we took the truck apart and we spread everything out. And excuse me, we don't know what happened, but we had like 5 or 6 bolts left over at the end.
mhm,
We weren't sure where they came from, what they went to, because we had literally followed the pattern back in, and somehow we missed something somewhere. But it fired up, it started, it ran, it didn't have any knocks or anything like
mhm.
that. I actually can't say it fired up. My dad came home, and that's a whole different story. Lecturing on
Tell you it
because
is.
I went from spark plugs from the small wires to the front all the way to the back with the longer wires, and then I went one, two, three, four, five, six,
Mhm,
all the way around it. And that was a colorful moment in life where the profanity really hit the fan.
mhm.
And a
Oh
few
man.
wrench turns, and he had everything situated, pulled the plug wires,
Mhm,
But it's one of them things if you don't know something, and that's kind of one of the reasons I like the podcast that you do is because, you know, that mundane stuff, the stuff that most people don't know and don't usually think about, or they may think about it and just like, nah, I'm not going to take the time to look at it.
And that's me, and that's how my brain works. So, Anointed Glow. Glow, I have just subscribed to your channel, by the way. Just throw myself out there. I've just sent you it. Just subscribe. But yeah, I mean, another big piece of advice for podcasting, whether it be video podcasting or audio, is, we said earlier on, don't just do it for the money. Um, it has to be something you're interested in, not just the podcast, but the content has to be. If you force yourself to do it just because you want to be a podcaster, then it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You need to find a subject that you're interested in, because whether it be celebrity, fashion, movies,
Yeah.
you can't force yourself to. Yeah, it's.
So
I appreciate
grab
it,
a
Glow.
topic
Thank
that
you.
interests you to start your podcast with and stick with that subject matter, basically.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, I do. I have. You know, have I done it yet? I would. I will deviate off normal episodes at some point. To do something a little bit different, but it certainly won't be a mass. A completely, different style. But yeah, it's not a
Okay.
problem, Glow. You're very, very welcome.
Just, so I guess in closing, any thoughts on or other advice that you may give to people, or I mean, other than just being yourself and
Yeah,
doing what
that's
you
it.
love?
You do you, be yourself. Make sure, don't just do it because you want to be a podcaster. Make sure, you make sure that the content is something you enjoy. Because if you don't, you're not gonna be able to do anything with it.
Right.
And you're not gonna become a millionaire overnight. Far from it.
Yeah, and
Far
it
from
doesn't
it.
have to be something that, interests everybody in the world. You can
No,
find a niche that just
no,
certain people like and still be able to make a good, decent
yeah.
wage off of it.
That's it, because not everyone's going to enjoy your content, because everyone is different. We'll use that name again, Joe Rogan, because he is the world's number one podcaster. But
Right.
I've never sat and listened to an episode. I know of his name, and I've seen little clips as I scroll through YouTube. But everyone's different. Everybody has their own interests, and you will find that people come to you, when they come across you. So
Yeah.
you're not going to get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of views and listens. I, on a monthly basis, remain steady at about 70 or 80 downloads a month. That has risen recently because of the work my marketing company have been putting in. But yeah, it's
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like the radio jockeys. I mean, the DJs and stuff that are on the radio, they're basically just podcasters. Only
yeah,
difference is they have a lot of equipment. I mean, Howard Stern's one of the most famous ones on the radio,
yeah,
and basically all he does is a podcast. He
yeah.
picks up a subject matter, talks about it, and the biggest difference with his though is that he's actually got a live line where people can call in and ask questions and
Yeah, there
different things
is.
like that. But
Yeah, there are ways and means of doing that. And actually, somebody had emailed into the show. Maybe it's a few episodes back. I can't remember how many episodes back, but somebody did email in, and they did say that, would you set up like a phone in thing where we can phone in? And that straight away I was like, no, no, because that's not what I want. That wouldn't really fit the body of the podcast. Now, would I consider it in the future? Possibly, depending on where the podcast goes. I couldn't give
yeah,
an exact answer. I couldn't, but
I mean, I kind of get that too because I mean, you're trying to keep it as a mundane podcast and not very interesting. And if somebody calls in and they're like, "Ooh, I got a question, I got a question, I got a question," it
yeah,
kind of throws
mhm,
away the.
yeah,
Yeah, some people do get excited over the phone, and that kind of excitement would actually ruin the theme behind the
yeah.
podcast.
I mean, I could maybe sarcastic, because I am quite sarcastic when I read these emails out as well. I'm deliberately sarcastic. I think once I sounded quite mean when I was reading out an email, And I said, "Oh, actually, I think his name was Paul." And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm not being mean. I'm not." Oh, it was the Fly episode. So if anybody wants to have a listen I think it was episode 10 of the current season, and feel free to listen to the whole episode because you know,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
there's
re-listen to the episode myself.
and
I've
then
honestly only listened to it once so far. But
yeah,
um,
and then
did
of
did you ever
course,
find out if a fly did lose its wings, is it still considered a fly or is it considered a
mm,
walk?
yeah, yes, yeah. But no, if you go to the listeners' corner, if you listen to the listeners' corner in the show, I was a little bit like, oh, a bit mean. Glow, would you ever want to take podcast to radio? Now, I prefer the radio. I prefer the wireless over TV. Always have done. First thing I do when I get up in the morning is I'll put the radio on. Possibly if it got to a point where I don't know, I was able to do that. Again, couldn't give you a definite answer, Glow, but yeah, possibly.
So basically, if it went that far down where it was that popular, you could probably do it on the radio as a radio show versus a podcast.
Yeah, but I think so. I think radio is just as popular as TV in England, but we do have quite a few radio shows which dip in and out. They don't last long,
Yeah.
So
Well,
but I suppose if I
actually,
did and I still had the podcast going, it would always got the podcast to fall back on.
yeah.
Um,
Actually, if you think about it, I mean, where he's got it on the RSS and it's broadcasting all his different networks, Spotify is actually technically a radio network.
mhm.
It's where most
Yeah.
people listen to it is on their radios,
Yeah,
be
I
it
have thought about
network or whatever.
like a live episode. Um, I don't know yet. I have thought about it. Lots of different ideas have crossed my mind. Lots and lots.
Yeah.
Um,
As far as a live episode, I'm not sure how that would work out. I mean, would you do that on like a YouTube platform and do it as live on YouTube and then pitch that
mm,
over to the RSS site for your commercial?
I'm, yeah. Again, I don't know. I don't know is the honest answer to that. Um, but something I could research.
Okay. Well,
Mm.
if we have no more questions, and if unless Craig wants to add some more to the information that we've collected today, we can go ahead and
I've got
I
nothing
guess
else to add. Like I say, I think for me, the biggest, you don't need lots of money. And if you do decide, if you have got an interest and you think, I want to get that out there, then
right.
just do it. You don't need lots of equipment. You don't need expensive equipment. Be sensible about it. And, you can pick up $30 mics on Amazon,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, just do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I've been quite lucky. But yeah,
So there you go, folks. Start small and work your way up. As long as you have good audio equipment, it's all that makes a difference. And
yeah. Like I say,
like
it
you
doesn't
said,
have to
you don't
be.
spend thousands of dollars on it.
No, not at
Start
all.
cheap.
Not at all.
And if you
I
want to get
think,
to be expensive, just keep pushing the podcasting that you're doing and
yeah,
replace the equipment as you go along.
that's it. Awesome.
All right. I thank everybody for tuning in. Much pleasure having Craig here. As
Thank
always,
you.
it's not the first podcast. It's not our first YouTube live together. It's always fun having Craig here. He's
Mhm.
an excellent, wonderful gentleman from the UK. Um, Last time he was on live with me, he was Mr. Cauliflower Cheese.
Mm,
Um, Mr. Cauliflower
retired
Cheese has since
cauliflower
been
cheese.
retired. Mr. Cauliflower Cheese has been retired.
I think if that
Probably,
was to continue, I would have possibly had a coronary at some point, some sort of
yeah.
cardiac arrest.
No, we thank everybody for tuning in today. Been a wonderful conversation, wonderful interview,
It
and
has.
who knows? See what the future brings as things go on, time goes on. As Craig's podcasting evolves, we may come back for some more.
Indeed.
So thank you all for tuning in. And
I
I guess we'll go
appreciate
ahead
it.
and you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there and stay positive. Remember, if it's something you want to do and you love doing it, go for it. You can't ever go wrong. Just make sure you have a backup plan.
Indeed. You take
American
it easy, and
Maker
thank
out.
you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Greg. You have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there.
See you later.